Hello.
Hello. Back by popular demand.
Yeah, it's been over a month and a half. It feels like, or it is.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's been about 6 weeks. We just checked before we start recording. It's been about
like
6
just
weeks.
So that we are correct. I feel like it's, if I had to say,
Yeah,
just lie.
I feel like our
for
last
who?
episode was 55 minutes and 21 seconds long.
Yeah, but I'd say partial, just scheduling wise, hustle and bustle of the holiday season.
I had another day to my work schedule, and Brian does retail at Christmas, and that is not easy.
Yeah,
so.
Not, I mean, humble brag, retail during Christmas. But yeah, it's, sometimes schedule can move around. So it's like we ended up, hey, if we had to push it back, whatever, we're not going to stress out too much about it because, we care about this product, this passion that we have for the podcast.
Don't just throw it together. You can all resubscribe now. We're going to be here every second week.
Yeah. That's the plan, at least. Well, maybe don't count our eggs before they hatch, but that's the plan. We'll get back every other week here. Mm-hmm. So
my beard grew out a bit, and Brian's hair grew curly, so we're all good to go.
Do for a haircut, but I might go for the creamer here.
There you go. And speaking of looks, we're doing the nose job today.
Yeah.
Originally aired November 20th, 1991. And it's a mean one. This is like...
Yeah. I just want to say, as part of the beaked community, this episode is appalling. It's offensive. And kidding. But I do got to say, I kind of noticed that I got a bit of a schnoz. Like recently, as I grew up, I'm like, I don't know if my nose has gone bigger or what, but I think I got one of those Native American honkers.
Yeah.
I'm Blackfoot. And then, all those canceled sports teams with the logos where they are, it's so offensive that like the Native American Indians or, whatever, the Chiefs, they have like really pronounced nose. I'm like, that's kind of correct. At least in my case. It could be like a broken clock is right twice a day. But I noticed, I'm like, I noticed like I kind of got like it's pretty good size.
I've got a tiny one either. Mine's kind of I don't know where it came from.
So maybe, for both of us, we kind of feel for Audrey later on the episode.
Yeah.
But I noticed, I'm like, hey, it was something that I noticed, I think in my mid to late 20s. I'm like, wait, I got kind of a big nose. Like, nobody's told me.
Where's Kramer and you? This was actually written, the writer that wrote this, it was his friend's father, worked at a jewelry exchange, and he would say that to people. He'd be like, you're really pretty, you just need to get a nose job. And he'd say that to people.
Oh my God.
And then his, like, the writer's friend would be like, Dad, you can't say that to people. He's like, oh, they'll come back and thank me later. He actually thought it was okay to talk to people like that.
Like, it's a nice thing. Like, I'm giving him some advice, some real hard advice. And people won't say.
I feel for I have this little tiny, you might not have noticed, I got a little tiny bump right on my nostril. Mm-hmm. It's not huge. Sometimes it gets a little inflamed and stuff gets sore, but it's not a big deal. But I know it's there. I don't think anyone notices it. And I was at work one day, and this guy goes, so, can I ask you something? Will you be offended? I'm like, I'm hard to offend, so go ahead and ask me, whatever. He goes, that bump in your nose, you ever think get rid of it? My dad's a dermatologist. I'm like, I was like, okay, maybe you could offend me. Get the fuck out of my face.
Actually, you took the cake there.
Yeah, you win. You offended me. Asshole.
Yeah. And then I think this kind of episode, we'll get into it, but it's about a nose job. And I'm like, there's always like superficial things that you maybe can notice about yourself or others. And it's like, you hope people don't say it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's to me, I guess for me, I'm like, I guess I wouldn't care too much, but I'm like, I noticed, like, for me, I'm like, on the side of my face, I'm like, I just got like fucked up. It was from acting as a kid, like fucking terrible. Then I'm like 35 years old and it's just like fucking indents in my face. I'm like, I guess if somebody said like, hey, you can fix that ugly shit on your cheek there, I'm like, you know what, there probably is a better way you could have said that. Yeah. But give me that card. If
there's really a way, would Tommy Lee Jones look like Tommy Lee Jones right now? You know.
Yeah. So, anyways, was it the guy from was it Stand and Deliver, the one with like the kids?
Yeah,
the one where he's all like, got to get through to these kids. I don't remember that actor, but I'm like, feel like always one with his kind of pockmarked face. Yeah. Anyways, we're cut from the same cloth. Let's get into the episode here. So it starts off with a stand-up bit about pharmacists being behind a counter that's 2 feet higher than the customer.
And if Jerry is my friend wearing that tie, I would say, lose the tie. That's different though.
Oh, I guess I didn't notice the tie. It's just one thing that I did, notice. The premise of this joke, how pharmacists being 2 feet higher than the customer, and let's face it, folks, we're all customers to these pharmaceutical companies. All right, they're just cash. We're just cash cows compared to them.
Yeah.
On this episode of Second Button, the gloves come off. Brian takes on Big Pharma. Watch out! No,
look out, Bayer, we're coming for you.
Yeah, we're coming for you. But no, shitty jokes aside. So I actually once had a doctor that I would go to that I used to go to him. So I said I used to go, past tense. I have not gone back since I've gone to a different one. So, because every time I had an issue, he just prescribe. He wouldn't really kind of tell you what. It's like, nah, here, this will fix it, like a pill. Prescribe you with a pill. And then it's like, here you go, on your way. And then go get like a prescription and then be done with it. Pill popper MD,
Yeah.
And then I went like 3 or 4 times because I had terrible sore throat. And it hurt so bad and it kept coming back. It would be like every month or so. I'd be like, hey, I'm back with the same thing. He's like, all right, just antibiotics. All right, you're on your way. And then, okay. And then it would be even worse until one time I was like, let me go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. And then they're like, oh no, your tonsils are fucked up. Tonsillitis. You're going to keep coming back, Yeah. I mean, you can take these, antibiotics so you don't have to have surgery, or we can just take them out and you won't have to come back. And then I'm like, okay. So surgery, tonsils removed, and then boom, done.
Yeah.
And I haven't had tonsillitis since because they're gone. And it's just the fact that my doctor originally, it never said anything. He just oh no, yeah, no, this will help your tonsils. And I'm like,
yeah, the second or third time, said they're kind of big still.
Yeah, he could have said oh yeah, no, this is happening because of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my, against
selling drugs.
The fact just selling drugs. My general practitioner just oh, here, we're going to get this moron.
Yeah.
Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the joke. For Jerry. So he's talking about the pharmacist and how they're 2 feet higher. I have a feeling, the pharmacist has a feeling of superiority about them. They make you look up at them and say, hey, here's my thing. And then they look down at you and like, hey, you stay down there.
Peace, or can I have another?
Yeah. It's I got to type the prescription really small on this label. It's I think the joke is dated because I've never had that happen, or at least at the pharmacies that I go to. It's all, they're not higher. They're just.
Oh, they are here. They're all elevated.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but they're all elevated.
Maybe it's an East Coast thing.
Well, they used to all be elevated. Now, the main part's main level, but then there's another level where the pharmacist does, and they fill the prescriptions, but that is elevated above everything else. I don't know.
Yeah, because I've even been in hospitals or just at a drugstore or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, they're all the same. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I didn't get it. But also, I'm like, I can figure out the joke. And then also, even nowadays, the doctor just sends whatever the prescription is and you just pick it up.
Yeah.
Instead of having to go give the doctor's note to them, you wait, da-da-da. It's anyways, a sign of the times. So, anyways, the episode after the joke, it opens up with Jerry and George chatting at a newsstand about a woman that Jerry met. He met her on an elevator and he's going out with her. George is, shocked that Jerry could meet and talk to a woman on an elevator and then even get a date out of it. You got less than 60 seconds. It's like dismantling a time bomb. And Jerry was kind of saying it just happened. Words kind of just came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And then it goes to a flashback of what Jerry said. And so it's kind of, they're both standing there. It says I'm the one responsible for those crop circles in England. And then they're like, wow, that's great. And it's and then it cuts back to her. She's like, what crop circles? It did not land. No. So Jerry's joke didn't work. She kind of looked disgusted and like, what crop circles? Mm-hmm. But,
And did you recognize her?
No.
Besides that, she's dressed like April O'Neil from the Ninja Turtles.
Okay, yeah.
She, Ashley pointed this out. She was the girl from the Here We Go Again White Snake video. She was the one dancing on the car.
Is that Tawny Contain? No. Or is that a different?
Oh, her name?
Yeah.
I don't know what her name was.
No, maybe
I didn't write that
80s,
down.
80s video vixen. But Yeah, no, that's good. I didn't notice that.
Yeah. And she was dressed like April O'Neil from the Ninja Turtles for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why that was. The red hair
yellow.
and the yellow
She's
jacket.
wearing like a yellow and purple. I'm like, it's like, all right. I don't know if anybody would wear that, but she probably has like, I got a date with 4 teenage turtles.
Yeah.
I gotta go. I got some pizza coming up.
Yeah.
But and then Jerry mentions that George, he's got something in his teeth, and then George picks it out and it's spinach. He's been walking around all afternoon with spinach in his teeth, big old green peas right in his front teeth. And then he's like, "Oh, did you talk to anybody you know?" I was like, "Yeah, I had a job interview." It goes to a flashback of the job interview, just zoomed in on George's teeth. He's like, yeah, okay. And he's like, "Yeah, we'll let you know if anything opens up." The guy just can't. He's sucking his teeth and kind of doing like that. It's like he can't not focus on the fucking spinach in George's teeth.
And it feels like they're playing with flashbacks in this episode. It's like, let's try this thing.
Yeah, they're doing. Yeah, that's one thing I had that note too. They do that a lot in this episode, like just to like quick scenes, and then just camera tricks just to emphasize certain parts. Yeah, and then they'll go back and forth a lot, which the show's picking up right now. But at first, beginning of the season, it kind of seemed like they maybe didn't have the time or the budget to do stuff like that. And not that it's crazy just to have like put a different lens or zoom in on a certain part, but it's like that takes time. Yeah. And so maybe now they're, bigger budget or, plenty of, steam and money coming in. So they're like, hey, the director or producer or whatever, he's like, I got this idea for a shot. And it does make an impact.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
Because it's funny. Because normally they're like standard shots. You almost don't see a camera movement all that often. No. And now this is not necessarily camera movement, but it's like a shot that's like, boom. And you can see whatever the focus of the joke and pun is on. Yeah. Like
Family Guy does it all the time.
Mm-hmm. And then, and then that's another thing too. It's like, it's like a show like that. They're, a big budget, so they just add so many fucking scenes, but it's also part of their writing. Yeah. But I do notice it on this episode. They don't do it too much in other ones. I think that whoever was directing it or just something.
Yeah, I feel like whoever the director was that day.
It totally works, but it's just not very Seinfeld, especially at this moment. But, the spinach in the teeth was not a good look for the interview.
And I considered putting some in my teeth for this, but then I'd have to emphasize that it was there.
Yeah. I always hear that spinach is the teeth, getting stuck in the teeth. I don't eat a lot of spinach, apparently. No. If anything,
I eat it fresh, if anything. I don't eat cooked spinach.
Yeah, I do eat cooked spinach in a curry or something like that. Oh yeah. But I won't just eat spinach, I guess, in a salad or something. I don't know.
Straight from the can, like Popeye.
Yeah. But anyway, so Jerry mentions hey, what about who cares? Don't worry about the job. You got Audrey, so his girlfriend, and then assuming that she probably makes good money or whatever, or so George is fine. And then George, you see the face. He's kind of ugh. He's not too keen on her. And then George is like, okay, I'm only gonna tell. I wouldn't say this to anybody else, but I'll tell you and maybe a therapist.
And he's like, you won't think I'm a bad person? Jerry's like, it's too late for that.
Yeah. Hopefully, don't think I'm a bad person. He confides in Jerry that he thinks her nose is a little too big. Jerry agrees. It's a schnoz. Yeah. She's got a schnoz. And then it does her dirty. It does a flashback zoom to just fisheye zoom lens on her nose. It's like, so how's it going, George? It's just face and just nose. I'm like, oh my god. Yeah. And I know it's a fake nose, but it's just this character. They just she's the walking nose kind of thing.
You can see the pores.
Yeah. It's like a old cold commercial where you're just walking around and you're just a nose with legs and arms. Yeah. But George does mention, he kind of at least stands back a little bit outside of it himself and says that he's not the one to be judging physically, he's not perfect, but he's but still he can't stop thinking about her nose.
Yeah.
Like he can't let it go. It's all he sees, or it's all he thinks about when he sees her. Like it's just a honker, you know? And Jerry stops him and is like, hey, you know, stop being so concerned with looks, you know? And then flashback to the woman giving Jerry her number. Yeah. And he finds her very attractive. And I'm like, that's easy to say when you're, you know, the chick that you're seeing is attractive, like conventionally to most, you know? Mm-hmm. Especially like he finds her hot. So it's like, oh yeah, that's easy for you to say, Jerry, you know? But let's see. George, you know, he's never brought any of this up to her. It's like, why would you? How could you? You know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you ever brought this up to her? Jerry says, it's like, no, of course you wouldn't. And it's like, you know, George mentions this. It's like the ironic thing is, if she had a smaller nose, you know, he couldn't have never gotten with her. Mm-hmm. She'd be out of his league. And then he really likes her and everything, but there's just no getting past that nose. So cuts to Jerry's apartment, and the whole gang is there.
There is a delete scene there where the girls do show up.
Oh yeah,
Elaine and Audrey show up, and they have a bland conversation. And the magazine stand guy says like, "I need to find another job," and it wasn't funny, and they cut it out of the show.
Really? Okay, yeah. That I guess that wouldn't fit in.
Yeah, no, just it didn't work.
Yeah. Okay, and that's on the DVD.
Yeah. I started watching
DVD,
the cutscene or the cutscene that or deleted scene, I guess. And halfway through, I got up to take the DVD out because I was like, "This is not going to be good."
The deleted scenes, do they put those in where they should be in the show?
No, it's just like on the DVD. So it's like a deleted scenes folder. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, back to Jerry's apartment, and the whole gang is there. So Elaine, Kramer, George, Jerry, and Audrey. They're eating pizza, and then Kramer's also kind of telling the story about his jacket. You know, this jacket that was taken from him. You know, some guy left it at his mom's house. Kramer took it. The guy took it back in that Babu Bot episode. Well, the guy is arrested, and Kramer wants that jacket back. He wants Elaine to pretend to be the daughter of so that the landlord will let her into the apartment to get the jacket back. The landlord wouldn't be any of the wiser because he's never seen the daughter. She lives in California. Mm-hmm. Never met her. And then it just seems a little weird how much intel Kramer has on this guy.
Yeah, no.
You know? Like he knows where he lives, that he's in prison, what he's in prison for. He has a daughter. About the daughter.
Does he get it all from his mom? Like, is he
Yeah, that's I guess what I was thinking. But it's like, even so, it's be like, hey, Mom, you know, this guy that you used to bang, can you give me all the info that you got on him?
Yeah.
Because I want the jacket that he wore when he seduced you.
Yeah. It's kind of weird.
And like, if you put it like that, I'm like, okay, that's like,
yeah,
kind of weird. Because like back then, there's no like Facebook or MySpace or anything to kind of look up any info or intel that somebody could post or whatever.
Creep somebody like a normal person.
Yeah, creep, you know, the way you creep nowadays. So anyways, so Kramer is going to pose as Elaine's fiance, Peter Van Nostrand. And this is the first appearance of Dr. Van Nostrand.
Yeah.
They're different aliases. So we already have Art Vandelay. That was like first season. The architect for George. Now we have Dr. Van Nostrand, which is Kramer's alias. And then what we have, Carl Varnson. We're still waiting for that one.
Yeah.
So anyways, and then, you know, Audrey kind of asks about the jacket and like, what's so special about it? And they're all like, oh God, don't worry. You don't want to hear about it. And then Elaine just kind of blows it off. It's like, he believes it has contains some extraordinary power over women and seducing him. And then, you know, Audrey notices a mark on Kramer's hand. It happens to be a stamp. And Kramer goes on to say how he went to a reggae lounge last night and he wants to go back. But he doesn't want to pay another cover charge because he already paid one, not going to pay another. So, I think that's like a detail, like just how cheap Kramer is.
Yeah.
He'll go all day without washing his hand just so he can go to a reggae lounge, club, whatever, and not have to pay like.
I know people that try stuff like that though. They'll leave like the stamp on their hand and try to get back in a bar the next night. Like what? Like it's like a $3 cover. Just pay the $3 and wash your hands.
I guess I've done like, you know, other things. I guess kind of some cheapo things like that where there's like a bar that has like was it chips, like gambling chips, that they had custom made for the bar that has the logo on it, and on the back says like, drink token, drink ticket, for a beer or, draft beer or Wells, drink.
Mm-hmm.
And then good for one of those. So if you're in a band playing, you get to, get however many drink tokens you have. And I'm like, okay. Sometimes I don't use it. So I'm like, I'll save it. I'm like, well, next time I play that bar, I'll use that. So instead of just getting 2 drink tokens, I have the one from the previous. Or if I don't use that, I keep rolling it over.
That's just smart.
And I'm like, it is kind of cheap. Right? Because
you never got your beer, so you're not like double dipping.
Yeah. No, I guess you're right. But it's just like, so I can go to a bar. I never was so bold as to use it when I wasn't playing. I could have. And I'm like,
yeah, that's...
How could they... I mean, if I went to go see a show at the same bar, I'm like, I was kind of thinking about it because I had them in my pocket one time. I'm like, they know I'm not in this band.
Yeah. We get discounts at work sometimes, like different fast food places will give us a discount.
Yeah.
And I worked with a guy that he went in uniform on his day off to get the discount. And they called him out on it. And he's buying a family dinner. And they called him out on it. Like they charged him full price. And he goes, oh, I get a discount. They said, when you're working. He goes, I'm working. And points at his uniform. He goes, you pulled in a Volkswagen. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. Like, there's no ambulance outside. What are you doing?
That's pretty good.
And he goes, I'm just heading down. I'm bringing food down for the guys at work. And she's like, no, you're not. I know you. You're not buying food for anybody except for your family. And then he goes, well, we're boycotting this place. You never see another paramedic here again. And then they took away your discount.
Oh, he fucked it up for everybody.
He did.
What an asshole.
I could imagine the gall, though, to like be at home, put on your freaking uniform to go to the discount restaurant.
I like that. That's
oh, yeah.
It's stolen valor.
Yeah.
And then the fact that you ruined it for everybody.
You ruined it for everybody.
I'm never shopping here again. Okay, good. We'll make sure that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. I like that. And then I played a gig the other day, and I parked in front of the bar, and I'm like rushing in because I thought I parked in a spot where I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I parked there, threw my hazards on, ran out, grabbed my bass and a couple pedal board and all this stuff, and I'm kind of like, the guy lets me in, I rush in there, drop it off, run back, throw my amp in there. And the guy never checked ID. He never did anything. He's like, oh, man, this guy has a fucking purpose. Like, he knows he's supposed to be in here. I'm like, this guy's probably in the band. And then I stop, and I'm like, okay, I said everything, and I run back to my truck, and I'm like, all right, I got to park. I can't park here, right? He's like, no, you're not in the red. You're good. I'm like, oh. And then I kind of just walk in there, and the guy just like, I think I was in such a hurry that he's like, all right. And then he's like, you're in the band, right? And I'm like, yeah. He never stopped to ask me or anything. It was like, I was in there for a couple hours, and then I'm like, he finally like, I guess I should stamp you.
That's your scheme. You just show up to a bar,
but I'm
and
like,
run in with a bass guitar just to get in for free.
That's what I was saying. I'm like, go to different venues running with like, bring your pedal board and your bass or something on your back, and then just run in. They're like, oh, I got to hit in there, and then like, oh shit, let him in.
Another guy I worked with. We'll get back to the episode eventually. Sorry. Yeah. Tall guy, bald, big long goatee, like a biker style goatee.
Yeah.
And they went to California on vacation. They were on Price is Right. They did a couple things like that. And they went to Whiskey A Go-Go. I told them a few bars you should go to. And that's one of the ones that said, check it out. At least say you're there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we went to the Whiskey. They walked in. No one stopped them at the door. They went up to the bar. There's a roadie setting up for the show that night. And him and his wife sit down and have a drink. And then at the end, they went to pay up. And they're like, no. If we're with the band, it's okay. You're setting up. He's like, what is it? They weren't open. The Whiskey was not open.
Oh, they just walked in.
They just walked in, sat down. Bartender was there because he's cleaning things up and giving like the roadies and people setting up a drink if they
for
need
the crew.
One.
Yeah.
And so we walked to the Whiskey, had a drink. They weren't even open.
That's pretty good.
Because he looked like a roadie. So,
yeah. I've done it too, where I've like been to movie theaters and there's somebody checking your tickets or whatever, But I must have like blown right past him and just walked in, and I'm walking around. I'm like, oh, you know, and I'm like, I think I'm in the, like, I'm trying to find my theater. And I go to the guy. I'm like, oh, which theater? I'm like, oh, you're actually supposed to be on that other side. I'm like, oh, were you supposed to check tickets? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I just walked right past you. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, so I didn't even need a ticket. He's like, well, nah, I guess. Yeah. At a certain point, there's like, what is a teenager going to do? And just like a grown ass man, just like, I'm late for my movie.
I find that when I was younger, it used to be like there'd be a lineup and they'd check your ticket, and you like, it was a process. It was roped off, but now it's so wide open. I've walked in before, and I'm looking around. The movie's about to start. I'm like, who do I show my ticket to? I'm like, why did I just not get a ticket? Like, why don't I just walk in?
It's like, I think if you walk around like you have a purpose, people are just like, oh shit, that person's in a hurry. It better not stop them.
Pretend you're on your phone, say, okay, just stay right there. I'll be right there. And just like,
I'm on my way. Don't worry.
I'm on my way back in.
Yeah. There's so many. Yeah, we just cracked the code here. Just like act like you're supposed to be somewhere. Yeah. And if they ask you, you're like, hey, you're stopping me. Yeah. Joe said it was cool. I was like, oh fuck, Joe said it was fine. Yeah. But anyways, okay, what are we talking about? Oh yeah. So Kramer, he's got his unwashed hand there, and they all kind of comment about like he's gone all day without washing his hand. He's like, yeah, I washed, but just not the hand. So he goes on about how the women at this club, woo-wee, lots of ladies. Yeah. And then Audrey mentions like, oh, there's so many beautiful women in New York, and it's kind of intimidating, to be in New York. And then Kramer just blurts out like, hey, you're as pretty as any of them. You just need a nose job. And then they all just like jump down Kramer's throat about like what an asshole comment that was.
Except for Jerry.
Like,
Jerry just kind of broke. He broke
kind of
so
just
bad.
like
he gets his head back and he tries to do a shocked look, but he's smiling too much, so he goes around and just buries his head on the counter.
Yeah. It could have been like he thought it was so funny, but he's like, I can't show anyone that I'm laughing. It was pretty good. Yeah. They all kind of just like shocked, and just stunned or whatever. And then, Kramer was just trying to be nice in his own eyes, Yeah. And then Elaine's pissed, and he's like, you're not getting help with that jacket, kind of thing. And then George is speechless. It kind of zooms in like for a second, like as if, if you didn't know George, but we all do, you might think that he's pissed off at Kramer, that he's gonna, let him have it, and like he's gonna Hulk out or something. But we all know he's shocked, mainly probably because he's like stoked that Kramer said what he was thinking.
He has to act offended, but he's kind of happy about it.
Yeah. So, just somebody who just says whatever's on their mind, or I don't know too many people like that.
No,
but I think I may have mentioned this on the podcast here. But hey, here it goes again. So I don't have as many exes and dated as many people as the Seinfeld characters, because they go through a new girlfriend every episode. I don't have hundreds of them. Sorry, everybody. I can't speak for Andrew here. Maybe he's a real Casanova, but I'm not. But anyway, so I may have told some of these stories again. So, but I had a girlfriend that I thought, she was really, fun. She was pretty. She was interesting to talk to. She was, great body, all that stuff like that. And then I didn't notice for months, that she had like a lazy eye. And I was, kind of like pretty noticeable after I'm like, oh shit, okay, it's kind of like, I like your hair and your shoes. So
she's I brought it up. One blue eye, it blue to the left.
Yeah. And then so I brought it up to a friend of mine. I'm like, hey, I just know, I don't remember how it was. Not necessarily talking shit, but you just talk to your friends about stuff. I'm like, hey, I noticed so and so the other day that she has a lazy eye. It's like I never noticed until just now. And my friend was like, oh, weird, crazy. I guess I didn't notice either.
And they totally did.
They noticed within 5 seconds. Like, whoa, oh shit.
Oh wow.
It was like almost like if there was a camera perspective of him, it'd be zoomed in just on the eye. And then, that friend was not a jerk and didn't say anything to me or out loud.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if it was Kramer, they would have said something like, whoa, fuck, that there's surgeries that could fix that shit, that fucked up eye of yours.
But it is so Kramer to just say it and be like, what's wrong?
I'm helping. Maybe she didn't notice that eye.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, I have like friends who are not I mean, they're jerks, but also just like not outrageous Kramer style.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make somebody feel bad in front of their fucking face while I just like kind of dunk on them. Anyways, so it goes on for a bit, where Jerry, he talks about a world where everybody just says whatever they're thinking all the time whenever it comes to them. It's like, how long would a blind date last? About 13 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
They just like, I think your breath stinks. I hate your hair. Okay, all right, bye. Nice knowing you.
Yeah.
Just it'd be quick joke there, but kind of goes along with the story here. So it goes to Audrey and George talking in Elaine's apartment. Again, up close fisheye zoom on her schnoz. And I guess she's staying with Elaine for a little bit, or something like that.
She's staying there until Tina gets back.
Yeah.
I don't know why she's staying with her, but she's staying there until Tina gets back.
And it made it sound like she was doing well, so why is she like kind of squatting at Elaine's apartment?
Yeah.
But anyway,
it was something that was brought up in that cut, the deleted scene, that she was going somewhere, but it depended on how things went with George or something like that. Anyway,
gotcha.
They did cover it, but it was a very
maybe it was
scene.
like she's going on a trip or something.
Yeah,
because I know they do bring that up later.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, so they're talking, and she can kind of sense that there's something's on George's mind. And then he just kind of lies, and it's like, oh, no, nothing, blows it off, then quickly brings up, so how about that Kramer, huh? He just says stuff. He's quite the character. And you could tell by her body language, she's actually great.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have very many lines or very many parts. She kind of like, she adjusts herself. Like, she was like, oh, I'm interested in George and, want to talk to him. So she's kind of leaning more towards him on the couch. And then he says that shit. And then she goes,
yeah,
just folds her arms and then sits as far as she can away without like completely getting up.
A lot of acting has nothing to do with what you're saying. And she does a great job of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So so she asks him about, what he thinks about the nose job.
Mm-hmm.
And then George, like flustered, quickly deflects to her. And she mentions she's thought about it. And, then he goes like, oh, doctors are great nowadays. And almost everybody has one. Everybody's gotten a nose job.
The people in my graduating class.
Yeah. And then he's like, most people from my graduating class. Although I did go to school in Long Island, so
yeah, I didn't get that.
And I'm like, is that like, okay? Don't cancel me. Is that a Jewish joke?
I thought it might be.
That's what I think. Okay.
Or Italian, or
oh yeah. It could be offensive in multiple ways. There's many layers.
We could be offending twice as many people now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just bring them on in.
Yeah.
So anyways, so he's mentioning, oh, it's so easy nowadays. It's like going to the dentist for a cleaning. And now you can see Elaine kind of in the background. She's kind of just taking this all in. She's listening to the conversation. Neither one of them know that she's kind of eavesdropping from her bedroom.
She's part of the background, but it's obvious that she's there in the background.
It's all focused on George and Audrey. She's out of focus in the background, and just listening to like what a scumbag George is, like shittily trying to like convince her to get a nose job without saying it outright.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, if you want a nose job, you should get one if it'll make you happy.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't focus on those things. As the camera focuses closely on her nose. And I thought that was a great camera trick too. It's like, I don't focus on those things. It's all just right on her nose.
It's like the fisheye lens just whoop.
Oh God, they really hammer that on home. It's funny though.
Yeah.
He's like, but I don't focus on that, but we do live in a superficial society. And then she's kind of convinced that maybe she should at this point. And then she's like, oh, maybe I, should. And then Elaine busts in, pissed off at George for being superficial to Audrey and encouraging her to get unnecessary cosmetic surgery. And then, but Audrey kind of pushes back and says, like, she wants it. It's not just Kramer and George.
Mm-hmm.
And then it cuts to Monks. So George says, I'm going to hell. There's no two ways about it. And Jerry's like, might not be hell, but you're gonna run into some bad dudes. So it's like wherever you're going, it's not a good place. You're kind of a bad person. You're a bad man, as Babu would say.
Yeah, very, very bad man.
Yeah. But George mentions how she's gonna take off the bandages, at 4:00. So this must have already, she's already had the surgery, healed up a bit. So now it's like unveiling of the new nose day. George mentions how it's kind of exciting, seeing the new nose.
That was 90s healthcare, because that was today. You'd wait 5 months for referral. Another year before you got him for surgery.
Yeah. And then, but let's see. It's kind of exciting, but not as exciting as the crop circles or Miss Crop Circles, Isabel. Jerry goes on to say how, the way it kind of cuts to, back to Jerry and his predicament there, how this woman is the most despicable woman he's ever met in his life. And I think that's pretty bold. He's repulsed by her mentally and attracted to her physically. Like his brain is facing his penis in a chess game. Which they never really build her up to be bad. Like she just is an aspiring actress and she sucks.
They said she was dumb, but they weren't like, they made her kind of ditzy, but not like completely stupid.
I don't think they made her. Did they ever say she was dumb?
Well, just in the scene where he's like,
oh yeah, later on, but yeah. And then made it seem there was like a little part where she said like, I don't think I wrote that in the notes, but she said something about like, oh, you can go bowling. Yeah, go bowling if you're ugly. Yeah. I'm like, I feel like there was more to be fleshed out with that character. Of like maybe she's really rude, she's a bitch, or she's stupid or something. But there's not a lot of development with her. But he says that she's the most repulsive person, but she's hot. And I'm like, I to the end, I kind of think this was added on. It didn't need to be part of the story. But anyway, so because it's not flesh, it kind of makes no sense. Anyway, so she's an aspiring actress, and he's helping her read the shitty scripts and helping her rehearse, and he does it because he's trying to smash. It's terrible. It's like I can't
because he's trying to smash.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I'll just deal with this so I can we can have sex, and then so let's see. So he goes to cuts to the next scene here where he's like oh kind of already built it up to like, oh, I don't like this person, but I find her attractive. Mm-hmm. Cuts back to Jerry's place, and Kramer's over there, and Jerry's like begging Kramer to like get rid of her number. It's like, hey, because he'll never do it. He just never wants to see her again. It's like, please, like I don't have the willpower to do it. Please just get rid of her number. Yeah. Then Kramer has a number on a piece of paper, tears it up, and then there you go. Which what if he like wrote it down somewhere else, like in a phone book? Or notebook or something like that.
Ashley mentioned when we were watching, I was like, wouldn't he know the number by now?
Yeah. Or if he memorized it, yeah. Yeah. But, and then,
it's
cuts
just to make the scene happen, I guess. But
yeah, cuts back to Monks, and he's talking about the sex. He's like, oh, I've cut it off. Kramer took care of that for me. Never going to see her again. But then Jerry still talks about like how great the sex was. He's still stoked on it. He's like, I was like an animal. Completely uninhibited. Yeah. And then George comes in with the line. It's like, it's like going to the bathroom in front of a lot of people and not caring. It's like, no, it's not like that at all. Yeah.
I don't know why that's a thing.
Yeah, it's like he's like trying to like, I don't know.
I went to the bathroom the other day, and there's a guy running some cables through the ceiling. It was like the false ceiling. He's run some cables through, and he's on top of it. He's like at the top of a step ladder. Yeah, and he has his phone out. And it's facing the urinal as I walk in. And I looked, I said, I hope you're not making a video.
Yeah.
Because I'm about to take a leak. He goes, nope, not allowed taking pictures in the bathrooms anymore. And I was like, ha-ha?
I like that. He kind of got rolling with the punches there.
I just hope that he was joking.
No, I got in trouble last time. No. Yeah. Sorry. But anyways, so let's see. It cuts to going back to Elaine's place, and the gang's all there to witness the debut of Audrey's new nose. Mm-hmm. So George hands her the mirror, and as he's talking, he's laying it on pretty thick, like, hey, I was there for you. I was the one who told you to get it done. Like, kind of just in case, like, she's a fucking smoke show after
once you're too good for me,
don't dump me kind of thing. It's like and then this shot is great because it's her back towards the camera and the crowd, I guess, and she only shows the actors, which is
they didn't have to do any
Kramer.
makeup. It was great.
Yeah, Kramer, George, Elaine, Jerry. So she takes off the bandage, and then they're all silent for a second, and then just down the line it goes, "It looks good, Jerry. Great job." And Kramer, the best. "You got butchered."
He didn't learn.
And George passes out.
A little dramatic.
So the scene cuts probably to commercial, and then Jerry and Kramer are picking George up and putting him on the couch, from him passing out on the floor. He mentions he hit his head, and then you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And then Audrey, she's covering her nose and she's running out of the apartment. So where are you going? To the doctor. And then Kramer leaves to go with her.
Which felt weird.
I think Kramer's just like, oh, yeah, he's kind of, I think it was kind of weird, but I'm like, no, that's Kramer. He was like, there's drama, I'm there. There's drama, I'm coming. And there's an empty spot in the cab, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Consider that seat filled with my ass because I want to be there.
He'll be looking for the pig man when he gets there.
Yeah. So, because he's got nothing to do. So Kramer's just like, oh, here's drama at the doctor. Let's go. Giddy up. So Elaine, she's sitting down. She's none too pleased with George. Just you can tell he's not super happy with himself either. And then he's just kind of like, there's silence, and they're kind of like looking like, mm-hmm. And then George is like, he's convinced they'll be able to fix it. Modern science, you can't beat modern science. Their doctors should be able to fix that, no problem. It's like, and then Elaine's just, shut up, George. Oh, yep.
Yeah.
So it goes back to Jerry's, and he's hassling Kramer for Isabel's number. He finally just, he's kind of like, come on. Kramer's over at Jerry's, just making a bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
And then like Jerry's hassling him, like kind of like, come on. And then finally, like, Kramer just takes all this paper and is like, fine, here you go. And then throws all the the torn up paper that has the number on it on the ground. And then Jerry gets down on hands and knees to pick up the scraps. Just see how low he's become.
Just pathetic.
Yeah. Pathetic. And then Kramer leaves and then comes back in to grab the cereal.
Yeah.
Like, I'm taking your food.
And it was great because he walked out and slammed the door. You heard him go in his apartment, shut the door. And then you heard him come out of his apartment, shut the door. And they came back in the apartment again, grabbed the cereal, went out and shut the door. It's just, so you could hear the whole thing happening behind the scenes.
Like Kramer's mind, you can hear it, what is going through it.
Yeah.
He's like, I've left him. I need that cereal. Boom, 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 boom. He's on the ground still. Cool.
Yeah.
And that was like, I know it had to be like for, dramatization, but I'm like, that's a lot of paper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if Kramer just keeps scraps of paper. And the fact that he still had it in his pocket.
Yeah.
Not to be like, man, that's not realistic.
Was he going to move it into the new jacket?
Yeah. But anyways, cuts to Monk's, and then Audrey's back is towards the camera again, and she's talking to George about her fucked up nose and what went wrong. Kind of the different parts and the different dents and stuff like that. And then now George is not even, like, he can't even look at her, like, at this point. Not just like, I'm focused on the nose, like, Jesus Christ, I'm focused on the nose and I don't want to be.
Yeah.
So she mentions how, they should go on a vacation together. They would, probably off camera talked about like, oh, we should go on a trip. Yeah. Let's, get away for a while. And then, to try and take their minds, and hers especially, off of the situation, what went wrong. Go to Hawaii. George, takes off his glasses, and so he knows he can't see. So he looks at her and to talk to her. And then, so he can't see her fucked up nose. But he makes up shitty excuses about how Hawaii, it's tough right now. It can be tricky because of the high pressure wind.
And lava.
Yeah. It's just like high pressure winds at this time of year. Lots of debris, wood and lava. Yeah. Even for George, that makes no fucking sense. And you could tell, Audrey, she's fed up with it. She's like, okay, I know what's going on, George. You you are superficial. Da da da. You can't even support me in this. Da 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 da. And she's done with it. She ends it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So George kind of had that coming. And George, I don't think is too upset. He's like, oh God. And then it goes back to Jerry's apartment, and he's reading scripts with Isabel. So he must have been able to piece together that number.
Yeah.
So he's not into it at all. Like, she just sucks, and then, terrible script. She's just overacting in a bad way. Blah blah blah.
He's not taking it serious.
Yeah, he's not even serious on repeating the lines. And then it kind of cuts to like Jerry in playing two characters. He's dressed up as Jerry's brain and Jerry's dick.
Yeah. And
they're playing chess in the background.
My note said penis, but we'll go with dick.
Yeah. He's dressed up as penis. Penis in the brain.
Yeah. brain.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's some good lines in that, actually. Some good back and forth.
Yeah.
Like one of the things, it's like, it's like, I have, you can't put up with, reading a script for, 60 minutes, an hour, just so I can, I'll take care of the rest of that, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, yeah, but then I have to deal with her in the morning. You have no idea what that's like, but you don't care. The brain's talking to the penis. So you don't care. So as long as you get to do whatever it is you do.
He's like all disgusted by the penis.
Yeah. He's like, oh, go read a book. I like that. I think I've, not the book line, but I've used that line. It's like, so long as you get to do whatever it is you do. Like, I've used that, and people they may not get that reference.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kramer and Elaine, they're now at the apartment, to meet the landlord. Because remember the whole jacket thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Elaine's, helping her out. Or, blah, blah, blah. Elaine's helping him out because he, went with Audrey to the hospital. To the doctor for the nose thing. So a lot going on with here, a lot of details that they have to get right, and then they kind of throw all at once. Yeah. It's like Elaine is Wanda Pepper, Albert Pepper's daughter, and Kramer is Professor von Nostrand. And the landlord knows the professor's book, so it's like, okay, Kramer, you probably should have done some research as opposed to just your costume.
Yeah.
So he asks Kramer about his opinions on Shakespeare, and Kramer just kind of bullshits his way through it.
Oh, Kramer with the so
mm-hmm.
He would get upset if people weren't, like, when they broke on scene. He's like, if something's funny, keep your straight face, get through it, because that's what he wanted to capture on camera, and he's known for that. But
yeah,
so when they did this scene, and he pulled out the engagement ring for Elaine.
Yeah.
There was lint stuck to the engagement ring. He said, pulled out, there's lint. He pulled the lint off through it, and then went to put it on her, and she cracked. And he goes, and they showed later, he goes, and I said to her, I said, do you know how funny it is that lint was in there? And that's not going to happen again. He goes, do you know how funny that was? And it just worked. And then he was mad at her for like 10 minutes because she fucked up the comedy.
Oh, yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah.
The fact that Kramer puts it on her and there's lint on it, and he's just like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like how discombobulated Kramer is.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I can see that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, yeah.
It is funny. Like,
oh yeah.
And then, but yeah, so it just, so far it's working. The landlord's buying it,
Yeah.
Like Elaine's kind of doing this, like the same thing, just like, oh, yep, yeah, I'm the daughter.
Yeah.
And the landlord's, yeah, he's like, yep, everything's working out. So landlord shows him to Albert Pepper's closet. So it goes back to Jerry's, and his brain is winning the chess match against his penis. Mm-hmm. All the while, she, Isabel, is just delivering these shitty lines really loud, and then just like kind of showing like, okay, this isn't working. And then goes back to the chess match, and the brain finally wins. And then Jerry, the person, says it's not working. And then Isabel looks confused, like looking at the script, like, is it the line that's not working? And looks at him.
Yeah.
And then that's probably it, like with her. Like, it never showed her being that bad of a person. She's like, or like you said, is she stupid? But it's like, that was the only thing that could have been like, she's not stupid, because it's out of nowhere, just like, hey, this isn't working, while she's talking. Like,
yeah, I think that's what they wanted to play off of. And at the beginning, when she didn't know what the crop circles were, I guess that was supposed to be like, you dummy. But it's like, maybe she just didn't know what the crop circles were.
Yeah, or it's like, especially at that time, it's like, I guess, are people that focused on the news?
Yeah.
There could have been a lot of people who don't have TVs, who don't read the news, which I'm like, I don't know. You know, maybe you're better off not reading the news.
Yeah.
You know, being that up to date. I don't know. I don't think they fleshed that whole scene out very well. But anyways, so cuts back to the landlord and the apartment. You know, Elaine's going through the closet under the landlord's supervision. Kramer's there. You know, Elaine's dad, Albert, was a very sharp dresser. He had a way with the ladies. The landlord had mentioned, which I think the landlord kind of gives out so much personal info.
Yeah, not much confidentiality going on there.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess there's not really a landlord-tenant confidentiality agreement. Be like, hey, don't talk about personal life. But maybe there is in there. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I'm like, why is the guy so involved in the dad who's in prison?
Yeah.
And anyways, so happened to mention one of the ladies in particular, Babs Kramer.
Yeah,
she was a nasty woman. Drunken stubble bum. He had to throw her out on the street many a time. And then at that moment, Elaine's like, "Oh, I found it, the jacket." And then Kramer's getting pissed. Well, he's just focused on his landlord now. It's like, you don't want to do yo mama jokes to the K-man?
No.
And it's like, oh, she used to walk around half naked, sucking Colt 45 from a can, big fat stomach hanging out. She would yell. Yeah. And then it's just like, you know, yelling from come back to bed and bring a Danish or whatever the hell it was. And it's just like, and then it cuts right there as Kramer takes the pipe out of his mouth that he was smoking. And then it cuts to cuts right there from that scene. We never go back to it. And it goes back to the booth at Monk's. Mm-hmm. And then Kramer says, you know, how he just like snapped. And he grabs the guy's collar. And Elaine's yelling, Kramer, you're killing him. The jig was up at that point. But hey, doesn't matter. Kramer got the jacket. He's wearing it at Monk's.
Yeah.
And then, you know, hey, so that story, you know, all turned out well. Who knows what happened with that landlord? Or how they got out of there.
Yeah, with the jacket.
Would have liked to have seen their getaway or whatever.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what is beauty in the writing there. You can just put it to your imagination.
Yeah, we'll just make up what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Audrey comes in, you know, to Monk's with a new nose. She's facing the camera now. And she is, in fact, a smoke show. Now, George is stunned. And she looks incredible, he says, you know. And it's like, well, it was Kramer's doctor that fixed her up.
Yeah.
And then Kramer gets up, puts his arm around her, and they're headed to the reggae lounge for the night. Neither one of them washed their stamps. They're going back in. And as they're leaving, Kramer has his arm around her. He turns around to the booth, and he's like, motions like, it's like, can't help it. It's the jacket. And Lane's going on and on about how breathtaking she is. Her nose is perfect fit for her face. All this, you know, good stuff. She's beautiful. George, silence. He's pissed. Elaine, shut up.
Yeah, the throwback to her.
Yeah. So it ends with a bit about how nose job is technically called a rhinoplasty. You know, pretty funny that, you know, people going in for a nose job know they have a big fucked up nose. And now you got to insult them too. It's like, let's compare you to a rhino. The big old horn. That's what you got for a schnoz there. You know, they don't do that with other things. It's like, you know, someone going in for a hair transplant surgery. Oh, we're performing a cubolectomy on you, sir. We're going to remove the skinheadia of your chromodomus, which is, of course, the technical term. I like that little joke. That's one of the ones. It's a simple joke, but I remember that one. Like, I feel like of the shows, like those cut-in jokes or whatever, that's one I always remember that stand out. Like, if you had to list them, I'm like, that's one I could recite and remember from the show.
And I feel like the mid-cut
it's simple.
one,
it's great.
Do they bring that back? Is that something that didn't happen in a while?
I don't know, but I'm like, I remember that joke, and it fits perfectly with the episode. It's actually a funny joke.
Yeah.
Like, if this wasn't attached to the Seinfeld episode, he could say it in a stand-up bit, and I'm like, it's great.
Yeah.
No fat on that joke. It's funny. Okay, so a lot of shit went on in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like at first I felt like the Kramer jacket thing could have been another episode. Like maybe somebody was like, we just got to tie up that loose end.
Yeah.
You know, from the Babu Bot one saga. And they brought it up several times before. And then even though there was loose ends in season 2, they never tied up and they just whatever. But I feel like this one, they're like, oh, we got to finish that. Which at first I thought like, oh, we could lose the jacket thing. But I'm like, no, that was funnier and actually kind of fit in with Kramer's character and at the end.
Yeah, I felt like the jacket might have been the best part of it at the end.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. That's what I was like initially kind of wrote down. And then I'm like, actually, it's the Jerry date thing. Like the brain penis joke. Yeah, it could have been shelved for a completely different episode.
Mm-hmm.
It like the jacket could have had a lot more meat on the bone. Like I would have loved to see more build up because it feels like as soon as they introduced, you know, the scene going to the apartment, it was like laid so much stuff on there. It's like, the daughter, the pauper, the blah 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 blah. Here's this funny landlord. The guy's actually, funny. I love the voice and like shit that way he talks.
Yeah, he plays a
like,
good character. Yeah,
they could have stretched that out more. But this is me talking about a show from 30 years ago. But still, like the Jerry storyline, because there's 3 storylines in this.
Mm-hmm.
Normally there's 2.
Yeah,
or 2 major ones, but there's 3 major ones here. And it's just, I feel like it was just like Jerry reminding people that like, hey, we got to remind people that Jerry has sex.
Yeah.
And with hot chicks, by the way.
Yeah.
Write that in. Put that in. Here. It's been a while since we've had that. And also, we got to remind people that Jerry's also slept with Elaine.
Yeah.
Put that in there later in the season. So we just no, not that they get together, but, just remind him he's banged her. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. Okay, Mr. Seinfeld.
We'll stick that in there somewhere.
It kind of feels like that it didn't. You could have taken that out completely.
Yeah.
It just fleshed out both stories, mainly the jacket part, because it was such a thing that was built up.
I feel
many
like
episodes.
the jacket, that scene with Kramer doing the prop humor with the pipe is so good. Like just the prop humor is so good. The landlord's so good, but it only took up like 90 seconds of the entire episode.
Yeah. And
So that could have been a full episode kind of dancing around that get the jacket back idea.
Yeah, it could have probably had more of like Kramer nosily poking around the guy's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like, oh no, yeah, this is he wants us to have this too. Maybe Kramer steals other things.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been funny.
Yeah.
That kind of seems like a Kramer move. But the way he like was kind of like also just faking the Dr. Van Nostrand thing while he was doing that. And then he just this giant giant pipe sticking out of his mouth, and he like turns around, bumps into the walls with it, and just kind of like
he doesn't pack it down. He lights it, and then there's like lit tobacco. It was funny. Like they really could have played up that part a lot more.
Mm-hmm. But the Jerry scene was funny, and I think they could have fleshed that out more too, because it's like, why was she so bad?
Yeah.
You didn't really get anything out. You just had to infer, oh, I guess she's stupid.
But like, even like George's girlfriend, like we didn't get much of her. Just big nose, fixed nose, busted up, fixing, get it fixed. Yeah. But there's no character there.
Yeah.
Like, it was a good episode, but like you said,
it
could have been a double episode, or they could have took one of the stories out and added them into another one.
Yeah, even because the Jerry hot girlfriend don't like brain versus penis thing could have been shifted anywhere. It didn't. Like if that wasn't in this episode, nothing else would have changed.
Yeah, it didn't tie in at all. So
So that's one. That's my critique. And the thing is, I love this episode. It's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mean. With the nose job, it's mean. Got that right, but it's funny. And then that's kind of I don't know. That was my big take on it. I'm like, the Jerry girlfriend thing was like, why was that in there?
Yeah. Just because Jerry needed a part in the show.
Yeah. And then, but I mean, definitely later on in the series, like there's parts where Jerry's like kind of barely in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, Elaine and, George dealing with shit, or Kramer for sure is a big focus with, Newman.
Yeah.
But maybe at this point they're like, oh, we have to have Jerry be like a big part. because I'm 3 seasons in, they're still probably still working shit out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I like this episode. It was good. So not my critique. Hopefully people are doing a fucking Seinfeld podcast. Not people. You hate Seinfeld, don't you? I'm like, no. There's just the critique I had for this episode.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Should we bring it in for a landing here?
Yeah.
All right.
Not really a whole lot. If you guys want to find us on Instagram. Yeah. We have a link.
It's been a while since we've done it. Like,
how do we close it? We have a link tree down in the description or the show notes or wherever you're watching it on. If you're watching it on YouTube, we also have a podcast version. You can listen in your car. If you're listening in your car, go check it out on YouTube when you get home.
Yeah.
Subscribe to everything.
Sub over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're on Instagram and Twitter. And then give us a sub on your favorite podcatcher, sub on YouTube. I think that's about it. We're getting back to the new year, new us. We're getting back to the bi-weekly episodes here. Yeah. So until then, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye now.
It's amazing how many beautiful women live in New York. I actually find it kind of intimidating.
Well, you're as pretty as any of them. Just need a nose job. I just said she needs a nose job. So what?
There's nothing wrong with her nose. God, I'm so sorry, Audrey. It's okay. What did you have to say that for?
Well, I was just trying to help out.
Yeah, well, you can kiss that jacket goodbye, Mr. Von Nozen.
You see what happens when you try to be nice?